Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you're watching from. Welcome to Dad X Discussions. We're coming back from a long hiatus. We do apologize. Things got a little mixed up with the holidays. And then, let's be honest, it's been snowmageddon across the whole country. So I had a lot of days where the kids were home. And long story short, we finally got things back together, and we've scheduled for our first Dad X discussion of 2026. For the last 6 years, I was on the board of directors for the National At-Home Dad Network, and the last 4 of those, I was the board secretary. And last October, my second term ended, and I'm no longer on the board. And when the board transitioned over, one of the things that the new board did was they sat down and elected new officers. And we're lucky enough to have one of those officers on with us today. Chris Griffin, who was a board member for, I believe, 2 years prior to this, was voted on as president earlier or toward the end of last year. So without further ado, let's bring Chris on. Morning, Chris, or well, afternoon for us, Chris. Because we're out here on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's definitely afternoon at this point, but I understand for those in the morning. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So,
It's weird not seeing you every month in a board meeting.
I was gonna say, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of interesting being on the outside after so long. I'm enjoying being, what's the word I'm looking for? Not responsible. Not irresponsible, just being not responsible.
Just a little
Uh,
less responsible, right?
a little bit less, well, yeah, a little bit less responsibility on my shoulders, but I can't lie. I know who got elected in the last election. I know a lot of you guys who I served with for at least a year ahead of time before the new guys got elected. And it's a strong board. You guys, I've got complete and utter faith in your ability to lead this organization and to keep it moving forward. Just like I knew that it was time for me to step back and let some new ideas and new blood come in. I'm thrilled that Dale Van Vlora has taken over as secretary. I'm sure he's going to do really great at that. But the reason we have you on is to talk about, here you are. You're the new president of the National At-Home Dad Network. How's that feel?
It feels weird, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. I never thought, you know, back in 2021 when I started joining book club meetings, or 2020, that I would be sitting here as president. It's nothing I take lightly, but in the end of the day, like it's not one person, right? It's the whole of the board that pushes us forward to our main goal. So I may be the president, but there's a lot of work that happen with everybody, every single person that's on the board.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Now, in the time that I was on the board, I saw 2 different presidents. I saw JHG, Jonathan Heisey Grove, who many of us remember, and Keith Nagel after him. And you took over from Keith, and one of the things that I noticed is that when we switched from JHG to Keith, every president has their own style and has their own way of doing things. When Keith took over from JHG, there were some. I'm trying to think. I hesitate to say traditions, almost like just procedures that we followed in every board meeting. And often those procedures had outlived some of their usefulness. And one of the first things that Keith did was he cut some of those things, just to cut back on the amount of time that those of us on the board had to spend in those meetings. Because, again, by the end, I was very, very pleased by the fact that, we were down to most meetings taking anywhere from, an hour, maybe an hour and a half tops. The first year that I was on the board, I remember there being 3.5 hour long board meetings. Now, granted, we were also dealing with the COVID lockdown, rescheduling a convention, and all of the other chaos that 2020 brought. But it did make a huge difference to start cutting those things back. Are there any big changes that you've made so far, or that you're thinking of making, or streamlining that you've thought of doing?
Well, to go back what you were saying about how things were a little bit different back then, you guys were dealing with a different communication system. I think most of the chats that you had were in Facebook, and then you slowly transitioned to Slack. So a lot of that stuff can be off a meeting. So like we can bring the topic up, and then if there's something that needs to be discussed further, we can bring it to Slack. And I think that's more efficient in our time, especially people on the West Coast, East Coast, because there was if the meeting goes 2 hours, I'm up till 11:30 at night. And honestly, after 11, I'm not quite sure how productive I am. But so the things that I would like to see, not really change, just kind of like, I don't know, like tend to a little bit more is that just kind of get, we're a volunteer based network, right? We're an organization that's run by volunteers, non paid. So anything that gets done, any ideas people come up with, they are created by the members and people within the network, and you push them forward. I like to say that we created the welcoming committee for new members, whether it be on Facebook, whether it be new attendees to Home DadCon itself. When you guys come to visit in October, there'll be a group of people that will be out there making sure they introduce themselves and let them know the schedule, the process, and just what we offer during Home DadCon. Also, what we offer as a network, because we offer a lot, right? Like, I mean, we offer DadX, Home Dad Chat, Book Club, Dad's Gotta Talk, and many other things. Dad Lounge twice a week, every week. These are things that
Hmm.
we offer that may people that may not know when they join the Facebook group, right? So having that committee or group of people just kind of introduce that to the new members is, I think, is key to ensure that like, oh, this is all it offers. What can I do to help if there's something I can help with, or just enjoy the things that we offer?
And let's also not forget that one of the new things that happened during my time on the board was the development of our Discord server.
Hmm.
Because the different people have different tastes when it comes to social media. I mean, I get it. Facebook is for old farts like me. I'm 54 now. I am the Facebook demographic, realistically. Me and older. The younger generation is much more on TikTok. They like Discord, and they like some of these other platforms to interact. And I've really, again, I really enjoy the Discord server that we have. It enables us to subdivide everything into individual little things, and topics. A prime example is I, I'm not a sports guy. I'm really not. And I love the fact that there's a separate sports channel that I can just mute so that I don't have to hear about the football and the basketball and the rest of it that just doesn't interest me. And I can pay attention to the book club channel, or I can pay attention to the cycling channel, or the running channels, or the cooking channels, or one of my favorites that I absolutely love that they have on Discord is when the channel that they have for family wins. Because
Yeah.
very often as parents, and it's true, we spend a lot of time focused on some of the negative things that are going on because parenting's tough. I mean, it's tough. We all face challenges, regardless of who your kids are or what they have going on. They're all going to bring home challenges, and sometimes we forget to celebrate those little wins where the kid did something amazing, and it's good to share those. And that channel gives me a place to go and do that and it brings a little bit of a joy into my days on occasion.
Yeah.
Now, one question I have for you, because this is a big one, is last year, um, the board reworked the vision and mission statements of the organization. Now, one of the things that we've always had, or that we've had as long as I've been involved, has been a really powerful core value of inclusion.
Hmm.
We're here for all families, all at-home dads, regardless of their background. We're all in this together. We believe in being civil to one another. We believe that gender and parenting. We believe that, all genders can parent. We believe that, masculinity is not diminished by caring for our kids or being at home dads in any way, shape, or form. But we changed the wording. And the new vision statement, for instance, says that we champion a culture where at home dads thrive, mastering caregiving, building brotherhood, and redefining fatherhood. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't remember the exact wording of the previous one, but I remember one of the big changes that was made was the earlier one talked about how we wanted to support an environment where dads were accepted as equal parents and equal and being competent caregivers. And we took that language out. And I'm just wondering, in your opinion, A, why? And B, what does that new statement say?
Well, I think why is because, with any network, you grow. And sometimes the things that were before, you outgrow. And I think that the new vision statement kind of encompasses defining it for everyone and not, it seems as if that it's more inclusive in the wording itself. There were other people who were discussing about changing the vision within the board, and then came up as a whole discussion as a group, and it came up to be what we have now: and dads thrive, mastering caregiving, building brotherhood, and redefining fatherhood. And that really kind of comes down to what you think you are as a father or a parent, however you identify. And I think that is something that is important to this network, that we support one another in any way possible, whether it be, I stayed up super late at 2 a.m. and now I'm exhausted, but I need somebody to talk to about how it is. It's tough. I had one kid that was a great sleeper and one kid that was sleep regressed. And I feel like the first year was a blur. It was a great year, but it definitely was a blur. Just, I
I,
guess
I'm
for me,
convinced I'm convinced that first year blur is a survival like mechanism that is genetically bred into humans because
yeah.
honestly, if we all remembered every detail of that first year, I don't think anybody would ever have a second kid or a third kid or a fourth kid.
No,
You
not at all.
always forget about the sleep deprivation and the screaming and the crying and the stress. And then you have the next kid, and you're like, why didn't I remember? Oh, it was this bad, wasn't it?
My first kid lulled me into a false sense of security, and I talked my wife into having another one. So that that was a different experience in so many different ways. But I love my kids both equally. They have their challenges, just
Mhm.
like every kid, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, but yeah, I think it's just growing with the times is the reason why we thought about changing our vision.
Well, one of the other questions I was going to ask is that, we talk about championing a culture where at home dads thrive, whereas before the idea was building a culture where dads were accepted as competent caregivers. So, as a whole, does the National At Home Dad Network feel like we've reached a point where dads are no longer looked at as the inferior parent?
I don't think the dads ever really look like as the inferior parent. I just think that our some ideologies, especially older ones, that my grandparents didn't quite understand about me becoming an at-home parent, but my parents were completely supportive. So whether or not like people looked at that as inferior, I'm not quite sure. I do believe that we are coming up in a time where it is more acceptable and more seen as before, with having social media and things like that out there to be able to have networks like ours for our community. Um, the numbers aren't necessarily there. I know that we had posted a survey for questions on data about your own experiences about being a stay-at-home dad, and there's not much data that is there currently about being a parent that you identify as a male, as this the primary caregiver. And I think once we continue to gather that data, once we continue to thrive and accept one another and push each other towards being inclusive, I think obviously there's going to be people who think otherwise, and we're not trying to change everybody's mind. We're just trying to show everybody that we are parents just as much as the female, and it goes both ways.
Well, and I will say, I mean, my oldest is now 12. My youngest is about to turn 9. Um, the difference between interacting with her middle school versus the early days of her elementary school, it was such a fight in elementary school for me to get them to realize that when we gave my name and number as the primary contact, we meant that. Please stop calling my wife. She's in the emergency room at the hospital. She's not going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
I'm less than a mile away. I will answer the phone. Whereas, fast forward 6 years, 6th grade versus kindergarten, and literally we put my name in and no one has ever made a phone call to my wife first. They didn't question it. Putting me down as the primary contact, reaching out to me when they have questions or they need help has been second nature. And there's a part of me that kind of feels like 6 years ago to now, the visibility of dads being primary contact and, easier to get hold of, whether it's because you're a stay-at-home dad, whether you're working from, a lot of dads are now working from home. To be perfectly honest, there's a lot of people out there that are co-parenting, where divorce happens and they're co-parenting. So, the dad might be the easier one of the parents to get hold of in that situation. But it just feels like it's easier than it used to be. I feel like when I go to the park, I'm not the only dad anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think as stay-at-home parents, I think we become more visible when we put ourselves out there in the schools, right? Like I volunteer a lot of time in the school itself, whether it be PTA, whether it be events through the PTA, or just things that are going through the school. Like Mayfair is a big one. I'm always making sure I sign up for things within Mayfair. Now, what I am starting to see, like you said, from then and now, because my daughter's 13 and my youngest is 10, I think that there are more dads at these events, and I don't think it's looked at as like, oh, oh, look at that dad, he's stepping up and he's babysitting, which there's no such thing as babysitting your own kid
No.
at all. But
No.
I think what's changed is that there's more dads willing to step up, even if they are the full-time breadwinner, I guess you could say, like the one that works full-time and the other parent stays home. They are stepping up and volunteering within the schools, within their own kids' lives. They want to be a part of it. As before, it was thought as like dad, kind of like the Al Bundy. The dad goes to work and he comes home, sits on the couch and cracks a beer and doesn't even think about his kids. I think there's more change of how dads are wanting to be a part of their kids' lives. And I think that's a wonderful thing, whether you work full time, whether it's co-parenting or anything.
Well, we got somebody who's watching live who just wanted to pass along their thanks for calling out the co-parenting. Again, we've got a lot of dads within the network that are, have separated from their partners or divorced, and they're co-parenting, and they are very, very much a part of our organization. They're still dads, and they still need support, just like anybody else. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. It's crazy when I think about the fact that when I graduated high school, I think I had maybe 2 friends whose biological parents were still married to each other. All of my other friends came from divorced families. So I think there's more of that than there used to be, because I think that there's a lot more people that are realizing that, quote unquote, staying together for the kids isn't the best option, because the kids need to see parents who are modeling what it means to be happy and what it means to take care of ourselves as well as the kids. Because you can't care for somebody else if you're not taking care of yourself. And Correct. That really is truly important. Now, again, moving on to the mission statement, it talks about how we empower at-home dads with advocacy, community, education, and support to own their role as essential caregivers and define fatherhood on their terms.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not going to lie. I love that end piece about defining fatherhood on their terms. Um, I, that feels great to me because there are aspects of quote unquote being the dad that I'll never do.
Yeah.
It again, if my son decides he wants to start getting into team sports, I'll be there to support him. But I can't coach. I can't be the assistant coach. Okay, I know nothing about soccer or any of these games that the kids play. I'll be in the stands cheering him on, but that role of dad as the coach, that I'll never be able to do that well. It's just
Yeah.
not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, that was the number one place that you saw dads. Is you saw dads as the coaches and assistant coaches at schools and in like the rec leagues around town and that type of thing. It was always that was where you saw dads, not necessarily doing the grocery shopping or the cooking or that type of thing.
I tried it. It's not for everybody. I don't recommend it if you don't. It'd be stressful. I love seeing my kids play sports, but she asked me to be the coach one time, and I did it, and it was it was a different experience. I will never do it again. I will say though, my youngest, he is starting to get into Special Olympics, so like he's going to basketball skills
Nice.
programs. So like I get to go and I get to help out anybody from his age group to adults with different neurodivergencies, and I get to help them and practice with them. But it's a different type of practice than it is like organized sports. But I love that type where it's still fun. And then when they start getting serious in coaching, that's when it just all that fun gets taken away.
That that's a whole nother conversation about the level of competition that has happened in
Yeah,
what used to be fun.
yeah.
Um, it's crazy seeing the kids the level that is being pushed on. I mean, I say pushed. I mean, the kids want to excel at this too. I'm assuming. I mean, my parents couldn't have made me do any of the things that I did as a kid if I wasn't
Yeah.
interested in them. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. Now, one of the big things that I remember both Keith and JHG doing in my time on the board, and again, stressful times bring stress, no matter what. And again, I was elected in 2019, and the whole world shut down like 5 months after I joined the board, and brought a whole lot of stress. There were a lot of conflicts on the board. And one of the main things that the president ends up doing a lot of the time is playing conflict resolution guy, jumping in there because, again, the members of the organization are who elect the board members, period. And you get board members from all walks of life that become a part of the board, and sometimes heads butt and personalities clash and people get hurt. And my question to you is, again, I'm not asking you to rat anybody out or tell me that whether or not you guys are having those kind of problems. My question to you is more along the lines of, do you feel ready to deal with that when and if it rears its ugly head?
I feel like what we've gone through in the past 3 or 4 months has definitely made me stronger. I think it's made the board stronger and as a whole, right? So like I am going to lean into. I heard a Steve Jobs analogy about rock tumbling and working together, and what he had said was that there are people who have great ideas and have want to have these ideas work through. And then other people have other great ideas. And in a sense, as a rock tumbler, you take this raw piece of rock and you have an idea what it could be at the end, and you put it in this rock tumbler for a time. And the same thing with these ideas. You got to work through these processes and the ideas to fruition, but along the way there may be headbutting and bumps on the road. But as long as everybody knows there's an end goal of getting to that shiny rock that comes out of the tumbler. because we are going to rub up against each other. We're going to butt bash heads a little bit. But as long as we're all doing it for the right purposes, is continue this network to move forward, I think that's a positive in itself. You can have constructive disagreements. You're going to have, I may not agree with something that you said, Matt, and then we've worked through it. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we're not there as we're here as a whole board, right? So it's not just me, it's everybody included in the discussion. And I think if, as long as you come to the table knowing everybody has that intention of moving the network forward, then we can do anything we want, no matter if we bump heads or not. We just have to do it respectfully. And one of the things that we have done in one of our discussions that it has fallen on the shoulders of the president, right? As like if there's a conflict management, what we have discussed is that if there's any issue with anybody on the board, come up to the full executive board, which is going to be me, VP, treasurer, secretary, and then we discuss it as a whole and between us, and then we kind of move forward there what to do next if it comes to that. Knock on wood that we don't have to go to that level, but we have plans in place just in case something like this does happen.
Well, that's good. And you know, one of the things that all of us heard a lot back when I say back when I was on the board last year, in my time in my time on the board, a lot of times we heard from members talking about how they wished that they had better access to the board or the ability to talk to the board members and just one-on-one and have that interaction. And I know that we've been making efforts to keep that going. I mean, one of the key ones is we tell people all the time that you can email board@athomedad.org, and that email will go to every board member. Not just the president, not just the secretary. That goes to all 9 members of the board, and they will see it. That's most definitely a big one, in my opinion. However, right before this last election, we did our first ever roundtable or city or town hall meeting, I guess would be a better way of putting it. We did our first town hall meeting here on DadX with all the candidates, and took in questions from the membership and gave all of the different candidates that were running for the board the same amount of time to answer those questions, and enable all of our members to get a better feel of not just who these candidates are, because we all know each other as friends, but what they wanted to do as a board member and what they brought to the table. Now, coming up on, I think it's March 11th?
Yep.
Yeah, on March 11th, we're looking at doing the first ever town hall with the board.
Correct.
Which is going to be like an open forum Zoom meeting. Well, almost open forum. I've been pulled to moderate, so I'm going to be doing the best I can to keep it under control. I know sometimes that's like herding cats, but we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to be heard, and that people get a chance to give answers, and that it's all done in a respectful way. But I got to ask, after all this time, what changed? What brought on the idea of let's just put it out there and let the membership just come straight out there and say, hey, why'd y'all do that?
Well, I think having that line of communication is important. And I think it also has to do with some of the board members that just came on recently that got voted on that pushed for this. And this has been one of their initiatives to have this push, to have that communication, because he was a part of Dad Lounge, and he thought that with some of the things that he wanted to change coming on the board was to have that open line of communication and like that conversation started. Because even though having that email out there, some people may feel apprehensive to contact us. And like you said before, we're all dads trying to do our best to make sure that this network keeps moving forward the best we can make it. And I think with this town hall on March 11th at 9:30 EST, I think it'll be a great way to have people submit questions, have people come and ask questions that are appropriate with their what their thoughts on or certain things. I think honestly for me is the I'm the head of the nominee committee, and the thing is, with what we wanted to do last year is to have the nominees more visible, and we've done the podcast where we release their videos and we've put their face like on their pictures and their why they're running on the website every year, and I think that's a great way to have people see it. But having sit down and have conversations with these nominees just to hear why are what do you want to do well on the board, and what do you think we can do better? And I think that's a great way of just keeping that communication open. And I saw the benefit in that, and I still see the benefit in doing that with the town hall with the board directors that are currently on the
Mm-hmm.
board now. And I think it's a great way to keep that conversation going. I honestly do, because I, we're here to serve the members and we're here to serve the group. So I think letting people know that and continue to know that, I think is key, because not everybody may feel that way. And I want them to be able to have, even if it's negative, to come out and ask a question that may ruffle some feathers, because we may not see something that they do. We don't see
Well,
everything.
sometimes feathers need ruffling.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a fun question, and I'm going to ask it. So Kyle Denny wants to know if the president is going to continue the tradition of running the 5K. Now, Keith always registered, but he never ran, which is allowed. And for those who are interested, the annual Dad's Run 5K is available. You can go on to the website and you can register for it. You can run it in person at our 30th convention in Chicago, or you can run it virtually at home if you can't make it to the convention. It's a fun time. We don't really keep track of who's in first place or anything like that. I mean, we kind of record our times on our own watches and for bragging rights, but that's about it. And there's a finisher medal in it. It's like any other race. Why did I run this 5K? Well, I mean, I got a pretty medal and a banana at the end. It's all about the banana.
It's all
So
about
are you planning on running this year?
Yeah, I have to sign up. I haven't signed up yet, which I've been kind of slacking on, but I know. Hey, Kyle's the boss on that committee, so whatever he needs me to do, I'll help with. And there's also an option outside the virtual and the in-person. There's a sponsor or runner. So if you can't run, and if you don't want to run virtually, you're not going to be there, but you want to help somebody else run that may not be able to afford to run, there's a sponsorship button. And all the funds, all the money that we make from the 5K goes directly to the Fathers Overcoming Adversity Fund. So all that money that we, earn through registrations pay for medals and things like that, but also whatever is there goes towards fathers in need.
Yeah. And again, for those who aren't familiar with the Fathers Overcoming Adversity Fund, this is something that was started, I want to say in 2023, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
where basically the org has a small, endowment that we're trying to build up a little bit and a little bit, so that when unforeseen things happen, like medical emergencies or personal tragedies, and there's a father out there in need, we as an organization can do a little something to help out, whether that is helping out with bills for a month or so, donating a little money to help with bills, or something as simple as, when there's a death in the family, sending somebody a DoorDash, or an Uber Eats gift certificate, so that at the very least, you don't have to think about dinner for a couple of nights, to take just a little bit of weight off the shoulders to help people out. So it is a really, really great cause. And I cannot stress that enough. I'll be running it. I have run it every year since it started. Well, let me rephrase that. I'll be running it this year. I have walked and or walked it every year. My goal this year is to run the entire thing, the full 5K without stopping.
So in, what was it? Milwaukee was the first year
Yeah.
I ran that. I got lost. I can't, but I made it back. And then St. Louis, we ran it under the arch, which was fantastic. And then last year we ran it on the river walk last year. And I ran/walked it with Jeremy Hastings. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever your ability is, It doesn't
Oh
matter if
yeah,
you finish first or last place. You're out there. You're moving. Move.
yeah.
I am a big proponent in moving your body helps you mentally. It helps my mental wellness. Like if I don't do an exercise in a day and I get grumpy and my wife's like, did you go out for a walk or a run or something? Because you need to just go do something right now because you're grumpy right now. So
I have
yeah.
literally had my wife tell me point blank, "You're annoying me. Go get your bike and go for a ride now." Because I'm getting snappy with the kids and the rest of it. She's like, "Just go get on your bike and go for a ride. You're always nicer when you get back." Um, which it really doesn't change. Now, we mentioned the upcoming convention in Chicago. Let's talk a little bit. That's got to be a daunting thing on the horizon. I mean, it's not just any convention. This is the 30th convention. And here you are in your first year as president. You're going to be standing up to give the state of the org address at the 30th annual convention. And you're going to have to be stepping up to give that report. How's that feel? I mean, is that pressure, or are you just doing your best to think of this as just another convention?
Well, to go back into the volunteering part and the people who step up and take every chance they can to help us out is super helpful. And this year, between board members and just regular volunteers, in our planning committee, we have 20 members. So we
Wow.
have the people in place to be able to make this a great convention coming up for our 30th. So a lot of local dads in the Chicago area are stepping up and helping us out tremendously. And I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart because the past couple of conventions, even though it's been mainly board members, there have been a couple volunteers, and those volunteers work their tails off. With having about 20, it'll ease the pressure off of everybody. So everybody can specialize in like, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. Um, I this weekend, my daughter is part of a girls group. It's a middle school girls group that creates community and like they do community outreach. I had to talk in front of all of the swag. They're called swag, Sisters Wholesome Altogether-ness, and it's the only middle school girls group that does this type of thing in the county that I live in. And I had to speak in front of all the parents and the girls. I'm more nervous talking in front of them than in front of you guys about the state of the board this year in Chicago.
Well, parents are easy, man. Don't ask me to talk in front of a group of tween girls. They're mean.
The girls are great, and I love them, and I spend a lot of time volunteering with them as well. So um, I'm excited. I'm excited for the 30th. I think it's going to be great. There's a lot of talks about what we're planning, and I'm really, really excited to see how it comes along together.
Well, one thing that I won't be doing this year, in addition to also, I am not on that planning committee. To everybody watching, I am actually looking forward to the fact that now that I am not on the board, this is going to be the first convention since 2017 that I was not either planning the food or on the board or speaking, or I just get to be an attendee for the first time in what feels like forever. So I'm really excited about that. One of the other things that I'm not doing this year that has been a part of my schedule for the last 6 years prior is the board retreat. And again, there was one year that we did the board retreat virtually because, COVID, and we didn't want to be a super spreader event. But, for the most part, we always, this was the one time other than at the convention where the whole board gets together in one place. Because again, we have members all across this country and a few of them internationally. I don't know what we're going to do if Marcel ever runs for the board, man. That's going to be tough it's going to be tough getting him in for the retreat. But the fact is we've got international members, we've got members all over the country, and as a result the board is from all over the country. I mean, as of right now, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have board members on the West Coast. Actually, you've got board members in all 4 time zones at this point, don't you?
Not the West Coast, I don't believe. West Coast, we're
Is
all.
Kieran, is no, Kiernan's not on the West Coast. You're right. We don't have any.
Yeah.
There's not anybody on the board Pacific, but you've got Eastern, Central, and Mountain. That's right. Gerard was the one that was on the West Coast, and he finished his term at the same time as me and Keith. But the fact is, the board retreat was a lot. There was this mentality that, hey, we're going to go and get together and have fun. And yes, there was fun. Don't get me wrong. There's always, going out to dinner after the work is done, watching bad movies on television after the work is done. But during the day, there was a lot getting done. So why don't you give your experience? Like, what do we do at those board retreats?
Well, I will say, you not being on the board is really going to put more stress on what we eat for breakfast and for lunch this year than we have, because you would make amazing sandwiches and breakfast every retreat, and I'm going to miss those. So somebody's going to have to step up.
No bacon or Reubens. Sorry.
They were the best Reubens I've ever had. So I thank you for that. So yeah, the retreat, it depends on the board, where you kind of meet as a whole, and it usually happens a little bit earlier, but the availability for us is in March. It's going to be in the middle of March. And what it is, it's like a board meeting, but all day. So Friday is the day that everybody comes in to the desired location that we're meeting. We all kind of get settled in the place that we're staying. And then Saturday morning we have breakfast and we start work. Like, we have an agenda that we pound through the whole day. For instance, I think we started at 8:30 last year and we didn't finish until about 7 p.m. ish, 6:30, 7 p.m. And it was the whole day we were working and just trying to hash things out and what we need to be done. And I think that's beneficial. Like, meeting them virtually, if that's the only option we have, it works. But being in person, having that whole day together, it's worth its weight in gold, I think, because I think so much has been accomplished in those retreats. This year, we're meeting in Chicago area, so we're going to be staying close to where we're going to be at the hotel. I organize time to go visit the hotel so we can kind of take a sneak peek at the location and what's around, kind of get an idea for the 5K course.
Where is the hotel? What is the hotel this year?
It's the Embassy Suites, River North, Chicago, downtown Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So we're in downtown Chicago, not like out in the burbs or anything, not on one of the side streets. We are right in the middle of it, huh?
We're about, if anybody knows anything about Chicago, we're about, I don't know, about half mile away from the Great Bean, like central, like downtown, like art district. So we're right there, downtown of everything, which doesn't mean anything if you're driving. Yeah. So no, it's the retreat's a great way to kind of ensure that everybody's together and working towards that main goal for the year. And yeah, it's all work. But yes, we do get a chance to kind of let our hair down, so to say. Whoever has that long hair to let it down.
Well, I was saying, I know the first year that we held the retreat after I joined the board in 2019, we actually held the retreat at my house because we figured out that, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think like half the board was able to drive to my house. Yeah. So we took my wife and kids and we put them in an Airbnb a few blocks away so that they didn't have to deal with a house full of dads. And we took over the house. And once we finished working, I think the big thing that we did is I have a basement and I also have an amazing collection of retro gaming systems. And there was a lot of NBA jams, and we whipped out the Atari 2600 for us old farts, and there was a little late night video game playing and enjoyment. But other times we've gone out to eat or explored the town a little bit. One of the things that I know we always did at the retreat that was a big deal to me was that we focused on those big ticket items. Mm-hmm. We started to hammer out some of those like goals for the whole year and like started refining those ideas that sometimes start off as a pie in the sky kind of thing. And then we work it out to where everybody can actually make it doable, and that's kind of a big thing.
It is.
So We're coming up on 45 minutes. Please, if there's anybody out there, for those of you that are out there watching live, I beg you, come ask your questions now. We've got him on the air. He can't dodge the questions. I mean, you saw Kyle lock him into running that 5K. I'm gonna ask you two questions that I am genuinely curious about. Number one is that now that you are sitting in the role of president, is there a pet project that you have? Is there something that you really want to make happen this year that is going to be a big push for you?
The welcoming committee was definitely one of those, and that's already gotten off the ground and working really well to get that connection to the new members and the people who are going to be attending the convention first. Um, One of my big thing is sponsorships. I'd like to try to reach out to the local organizations like we had with November. I think that was a great way of doing that. And for the 5K, I've been reaching out to other sponsor opportunities through shoe companies that have a sponsorship program. There's quite a bit of companies out there that I've reached out to, haven't heard back, but you knock on enough doors, somebody will answer eventually.
That's the rules. That's the rules of sales. 100 no's to get one yes.
Yep, marketing's a big thing. I like to find a way to kind of get us more forward facing in the communities that we're going to be in for the convention, for one, but then also not in the convention, like people who may not know who we are. How do we get our faces forward? And that's been a big project of mine too. So there's been a lot of those type of things that I believe that I've been working on. 5K has always been the thing that I really like doing. That's a great way of just kind of continuing things, just building off of that. But those are my big pet projects right now, and just continually make sure like the community knows that we're here for them. And then if they want to have something done, bring it forward, discuss it. Let's work towards it to make it happen.
And again, if you want to email the board, that email address is literally board@athomedad.org. And if you feel more comfortable speaking than you do writing, I know I talk a whole lot better than I type. March 11th, 9:30 Eastern, we're going to be doing a town hall with the board. Now, I'm assuming it's not going to be the whole board that's going to be there, or is it going to be all 9 of you? Because getting all 9 of you to show up in one place is a logistics struggle. I've been there. It's a struggle.
I think for the very least, I mean, we haven't discussed who all said they are available. At least if we have, I don't remember exactly all people are able to make it. I think there are some people on the earlier time zones that got to get their kids to bed, and then they'll be able to jump on. Those are the type of the hurdles that they're going to do too. But I think the majority of the board is going to make an effort to jump on for the town hall. It's especially the executive committee.
All right. And my last question, and this is the pointed one, because if I'm not mistaken, this is your 3rd year on the board, is it not?
It is.
So, what's the plan? When we come to Chicago, is President Griffin thinking of running for re-election, or are you going to finish out your term and step out and let someone else move into that position?
Right off into the sunset. Now, I honestly, I've been giving it a lot of thought lately, and it's more conversation that I have to have with my wife, because it is something that is not only affects me, but it affects her, my kids, like the time I put in. So it is an ongoing conversation. I don't want to say one way or the other, because I really enjoy what I do. And I really think that what I can and the board can bring to the table can progress in a way that I think it'll move us forward. So, but if I don't can't run again for the board, I will do my very best to ensure whoever steps into that role is prepared, and make sure that there's, like you did with the secretary, you had a list of a bunch of different responsibilities that need to be done at a certain time. I want to ensure, if that's the case, if I'm not running, that next person stepping into that role has that list, and I will have that open dialogue with that person. Yeah, any question they have, anything that they need help with, I'll be right there. So even if I don't run, and if I'm not going to be on the board, I'm still going to be very active with the board.
And I think that's one of the most important things, is that, it's unfortunate in so many organizations and in so many endeavors especially when you're dealing with volunteers, when one volunteer leaves and someone else steps up, when a volunteer leaves and takes a huge amount of just institutional knowledge with them, and people have to start over. One of the things that I truly appreciate is that, I believe it was Frank Kuiper who originally built the Google Drive that we have and that we use, and was able to give us the ability to like store that information and pass that information along to to people down the road. I know that document that I left behind for the new secretary. I didn't write most of that document. Most of that document was written by the secretary prior to me, Quetzal Torres. And all I did was update it with the things that I had found that also needed to be in there. And I hope that Dale, when he's finished with his time, updates it with the things that he's had to add so that it just continues growing. Again, I want to thank you for your time because we are coming up on 50 minutes right now, and it doesn't look like we have any final questions. Oh, wait, we do have one more. Kyle Denny wants to know where he can get that cool shirt. That's the free dad hug shirt. Can you stand up and model that for everyone? There we go.
The camera's moving with me.
It automatically follows.
Yeah, I got to be quick.
All right. So where can somebody go to get that free dad hug shirt?
If you go on our website, athomedad.org, the National Home Dad Network's official webpage, you can go in the shopping section, and then whether you're a member or non-member, you can purchase a shirt.
All right. Well, again, Chris, I want to thank you for your time. Again, as a fellow at-home dad, I know carving out an hour of your day is not easy. And you're not at home, I can tell. You're sitting at the library. No. You're at a library.
We have fantastic libraries where I live, and I just reserved a room, and it's been great. I've done this with this and other town halls and things like that. So they have so many great things within the library. Yeah. So, and the kids aren't here because they're at school. So I got the whole place to myself.
Oh, sweet. Sweet. I hadn't even thought about that. Well, look, I do want to thank you for your time. I want to thank everybody who joined us. Please understand, if you're interested in our organization, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it this week, Facebook. DadX discussions. We're out here once a month. The Dad's Run 5K is coming up. Feel free to register. And again, don't forget our podcasts, Home Dad Chat. You can listen on Spotify or wherever you get your favorite podcast. I know that they have all of them are on the YouTube channel for the National At Home Dad Network, as well as are all the previous DadX discussions. And the one thing that I want everybody to remember is that the National At Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer-run organization. There is nobody getting compensated for any of the time that they put in for this organization. Everybody is doing this with their own free time and their own energy, and we're always looking for people who have any skills that they want to lend to the organization. If you've got something that you're good at, please let us know, and we would love to have you help out. Dale Van Vlera, in addition to being our secretary, is also our volunteer coordinator, unless that's changed. No?
Not that I know. No, he's still in that role.
Yeah, he's still doing that role. So you can reach him at dalevat@homedad.org, or honestly, secretary@homedad.org. Either one of those email addresses will get to him. And please let him know that you're interested in volunteering, and you too can be a part of keeping the National At Home Dad Network doing what it does, because volunteers are what make all of this possible. So on behalf of the National At Home Dad Network, we want to thank the president for coming to join us. I want to thank everybody who took the time to watch, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Everybody have a great afternoon.
Have a great one, guys.